This is the result of a number of private focus groups done around the world, paid for by the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and leaked to us. So we're going to roll through some of the findings here, but to back up, the purpose of this project is clear. It is to test what messages will work for Israel going forward, particularly, quote unquote, after the war, in order to kind of try to regain some of the international legitimacy and standing that they have lost over the years. They did 15 focus groups, 6 in the United States, 3 groups each in the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. They also did what they call quantitative message testing, 8,050 total interviews, 3,250 interviews in the US, 1,200 each in the UK, Germany, France, and Spain. This is to set a baseline, a starting point, to find out where people are now when it comes to their opinions on Israel. Spoiler, people in Spain do not like Israel's conduct. And then phase 3, what they call animatic testing. This is 5,600 interviews, 4,000 in the US and 1,600 in the UK and Europe, which isn't totally complete, but by the time that this was put out, but it's testing specific, what they call messages, tone, and delivery. So what are they doing? They're sitting down with people. This is very expensive work, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Millions and millions. And it's going to Stagwell Group, which is Mark Penn's firm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Mark Penn, former Clinton guy, now more of a Fox News Trump guy.
Sort of centrist.
Yeah.
Third way type,
but a
maybe.
Quirky, anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
You can look him up, go down the Mark Penn rabbit hole if you want. He and his wife are involved with No Labels. Like they launched No Labels.
There you go. We just explained it perfectly.
Yeah, there you go. So what they do these focus groups, then they do telephone interviews, get baseline, and then they go back to people and try to figure out what can move people from their current baseline, basement level views of Israel to something that gives them some level of international legitimacy and avoids the isolation that is quite obviously coming their way. To short circuit and get right to the chase, effectively what they recommend is ramping up Islamophobia. They argue that when Israel is compared to when Israel is compared to Iran or Hamas, people generally prefer Israel to Iran or Hamas. And they also then survey people's attitudes, particularly in Europe, towards Muslim immigrants, and find that there are a lot of people in Europe who have some underlying hostility towards Muslims in Europe. And so Israel's argument is lean into that, like lean into that kind of comparison and say that we are the ones that are standing up against the horde, basically. Just key findings on page 3. International attitudes toward Israel and the conflict are consistently worse in Europe than in the United States, particularly in the UK, France, and especially in Spain. Most Europeans support the, quote, Palestinians, except in Germany, over Israel, but they do recoil against both Hamas and Iran. So when they compare Israel to Hamas and Iran, Israel polls better. When they say, do you prefer the Palestinians or the Israelis or Israel, Palestinians wins out handily. 18 to 24-year-olds are uniformly the worst performing group, though attitudes in Spain are across the board negative to Israel, so everybody in Spain. Nearly half or more of all Europeans believe that Palestinians were there first, and solid majorities believe they had a nation there. 8 in 10 in Europe nevertheless believe Israel has a right to exist as a nation state and the homeland of the Jewish people. They also see the Palestinians as having a right to a state. As you've been looking at this document, anything that jumped out that you'd want to flag?
Well, this juxtaposition that comes across pretty favorably to Israel in the U.S. of Israel versus Hamas, and then Israel versus Palestinians. Now, in the rest of the world, when you make it Israelis versus Palestinians, you see more favorability towards the Palestinians. So UK, France, and Spain. Germany and the US are still the places where there's more favorability for the Israelis over the Palestinians. But you can see on page 14 why this argument about Hamas being the important talking point for those who want to bolster support for Israel is so powerful, because the gap between support for Israel and Hamas is so completely different than Israel versus Palestinians. And I think that's the kind of false choice that we see constantly offered, which is that you are either with Israel or you are necessarily with Hamas. And that's a problem actually for the Palestinians, many of whom do not wish to support Hamas, and wish that they had other options themselves. So not everybody. I mean, it's hard to actually know what that means and what support is, but like that in Gaza and the West Bank. But this is just, I mean, I think illustrative of why we so often see the choice between Israel and Hamas. And the argument that should obviously be made is that you end up with a more extreme and ultimately more powerful Hamas, because you are not going to eradicate the, like, quote, armed resistance part of Palestinian politics. That's not going anywhere. You can, quote, eradicate Hamas. Right. You probably can't, quote, eradicate Hamas, but that's not going anywhere. So that's why that juxtaposition is, I think, the Israelis still see value in it, obviously, because you look at these numbers.
Yeah, and the right-wing faction in Israel that has long opposed coexistence has actually they've been the ones that have wanted to elevate Hamas. This Netanyahu's strategy for a very long time, to elevate Hamas so that you can then say that there are no partners for peace. And it works in a public relations way too. So you see even in Spain, Israel versus Hamas is 65-35 Israel versus Hamas, whereas everything else, when you ask Spaniards about Israel, absolutely in the tank. Now, this is for a post-war, post-genocide circumstance that they're talking about. How do we redevelop positive attitudes going forward? There's a chance there basically isn't a Hamas, and there won't. There might not be a Hamas, anything like what we've come to understand. But what Israel's now doing in Gaza is boosting this Abu Shabaab gang, which has had ties to ISIS, and you can imagine a strategy where they elevate groups that make Hamas look moderate to Spaniards and say, okay, yes, you don't like us, but what about this Abu Shabaab gang? And then people like us who've been following this from the beginning will be like, wait a minute, you guys built them. We watched you create them in real time and celebrate them. And then Barry Weiss interviewed them. And you got him in the Wall Street Journal. Like, yeah, but they have ISIS links. Like, we said that at the time. Like, and it's the gap between people who follow things closely and the ones who are just seeing it on the surface. So yeah, so what they might do is just create like ISIS-like groups to like lift them up and be like, okay, yeah, you didn't like our genocide. You didn't like that. Fair enough. We acknowledge that we went a little overboard. But you really don't want to deal with these people, do you?
Well, I mean,
and the people are like, yeah, but those are your allies. You propped them up.
As of how many years ago? I mean, there's a Washington Post story about this. I want to say it was like 2014, 2016. There's still American textbooks circulating around Afghanistan that have like Islamist messaging in them because they were being given out at madrasas to support the Mujahideen. And these things have like seriously dire consequences over the course of decades, right? Like if you're trying to play Risk on the chessboard in like the immediate 5-year time span, rarely, if ever, are you actually accounting for what's going to happen? Are you actually like being clever in a long-term, maybe China is clever on a 100-year strategy plan, but that has not been the case with the United States and Israeli politicians roughly over the last 10 plus years. Yeah. And that's how you end up with, that's how you end up elevating movements that actually are harmful to the United States. And then, of course, you censor them. You take the bin Laden letter down from The Guardian, showing how the U.S. government, created this threat to the United States unintentionally with a ridiculous policy in Afghanistan. But anyway.
And if we go to page 15, this is what we're talking about, this cross-national comparison, Israelis versus Palestinians. Israelis doing worse with Spain, that's 71 siding with Palestinians, 29 with Spain. Second worst in France, 59, 41. Then UK, 53, 47, still siding with Palestinians over Israelis. And then it flips with Germany, 55, 45 pro-Israeli. The US, 65, 35 pro-US. Now the problem, pro-Israeli, same thing. The problem for the Palestinians here probably jumps out at you there. What do you see here? The least powerful countries are the most supportive of Palestinians. The most powerful, most supportive of Israel. Spain being the least powerful of these European countries that are listed here. France would then be the second least powerful. UK being third, and Germany being the most powerful European country, and then the US obviously being the most powerful country. So while publics in general, are leaning more towards Palestinians, centers of power, remain tight with Israel. However, you can see this changing, everywhere. You can go to page 16. Gen Z in the UK likely to support Palestinians over Israel by much more, 65-35 than the average UK. Even in Germany, among Gen Z, it's 63-37. For 18 to 24-year-olds in Germany, it's 71-29. So even in Germany, they're losing long-term. France, way worse, 80-20 for 18 to 24-year-olds, 79-21 for Gen Z.
Those numbers would have been so different among that age cohort 10 years ago.
That's true.
I mean, 5 years ago, actually, probably.
19, Spain, it's just a sea of yellow for the Palestinians there. And anyway, if you want to see the entire thing, we can link it below, or you can go check it out at Dropside News.
Was this supposed to remain private and just circulate?
Yeah. Somebody wanted this out and decided to leak it to us.
And who exactly commissioned it? Was it the government itself?
Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs commissioned it.
Foreign Affairs commissions it. Okay.
Which got a huge influx of money for what they call Hasbara, for propaganda efforts. I forget the exact figure. You can go look at our reporting, but the budget for Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Israeli government has exponentially expanded since October 7th to do this kind of thing.
I know it's expensive to do.
Yeah. Just getting together one focus group.
Yeah.
Is like tens of thousands of dollars.
Let alone internationally.
Right, to do them all over the world and do a lot of them.
Super interesting story.
Yeah, interesting story.
And you'll start to see it show up in the tone of different statements and such going forward. I'm sure different social media videos. No, it's not going to, I think, create a dramatic pivot. I think this is roughly already a lot of the strategy, but in some interesting ways, it does show they'll have to open a new chapter in the propaganda war, because some of the stuff isn't even working in the U.S. anymore.
And just a couple other interesting things, it shows that they care about, I'll just read you. So if you go to page 33, estimates of deaths in Gaza versus Israel. So they'll ask people, how many people have been killed in Gaza in the past year as a result of the conflict with Israel? So people in Spain will say 40,000. People in France say 30,000. People in the UK say 25,000. People in Germany and the US say 10,000. So people in Germany and the United States genuinely, so when you look at the attitudes that they have towards Israel, they're based on a misunderstanding. They believe, because of the media diet that they consume, that many fewer people have been killed by Israel than have been killed. So that could also change their views when or if they ever understand that that's not true, that they've been lied to, that it's actually a lot more. So that could be, and it's interesting to note that this is something Israel's paying attention to, that they're surveying it
to
find out, what do people know about what we've done.
Right. That is a really interesting one. I mean, the whole thing, it's all interesting. It's the questions they asked are interesting. Like that in particular is interesting.
And the next page is really interesting relative to that because it asks, of those killed, do you think they were mostly Hamas terrorists or collaborators or mostly civilians? And by overwhelming majorities, everyone, including people in the United States, believes they were mostly civilians. The U.S. is the lowest, but in the U.S., 2/3 of people believe that they were mostly civilians who were killed. But they also wrongly believe that they only killed 10,000 over the last year. So if they find out, oh, actually it was 100,000, 200,000, like as we find out, does that change people's attitudes? Certainly Israel thinks it will, because they wouldn't be surveying it otherwise. So.
Curious to see what they do with that one.
Yeah.
Very curious to see what they do with that one. Well, fascinating insights here, Brian.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.